to Breaking Black Podcast. You're back with your host, Tina G and Fancy Arlee. One of the things that I really wanted to talk about is kind of like this rise that you're seeing with all of these different men. It's usually men, basically making all of these children with, you know, a bunch of different women. In particular, we'll go with Nick Cannon, Cam Newton. And surprisingly, a lot of people are not aware, but we'll add Elon Musk to that list. And we'll get to that a little bit later. I saw a couple of interviews and, you know, both Nick and Cam kind of, to me, have similar dispositions in the sense of like, they feel like, you know, having children with multiple women isn't taking away their ability to be fathers. It isn't taking away their ability to provide. And a lot of times, you know, the juxtaposition is, you know, kind of looking at what their children could be missing and in not being able to share, you know, two-parent households in each situation or each scenario. And I think, in my opinion, I feel like the more children you have, the more time you have to spread. You know, it's no matter how much money you have, no matter what your means are, there's always going to be a space where you're not going to be able to make something or meet something or be in this location because you're at another location. And so the more that you spread that out, because it's different from having, you know, 10 kids with the same woman, right? Where they're all in the same household and things like that. It's not really about the number of the children, but it's more so about them being in different relationships, creating multiple broken relationships and what that means for those women that are involved and their kids. Like, what are your thoughts about that? I mean, I know, you know, a lot of people have, you know, traditional lifestyles. Some people have non-traditional lifestyles. Like, how do you feel about it when, in terms of bringing children, you know, into the equation?
Listen, I love Cam Newton and I love Nick Cannon. I feel like their thought process when they were you know, having these kids, or their thought processes of wanting to you know, be fruitful and multiply, right? I think that at the time they probably were like, okay, you know, I want to be able to have, you know, put my mark on the world, right? What better way to do that than to have offspring, right? I think that my kids are going to go on and be great. So I love that aspect of it. But again, it's kind of, to me, don't shoot the messenger, right? She asked me a question and I'm going to answer it, right? So I feel like it goes back to me saying that it's an insecurity thing, right? Just like with young ladies feeling like they need to be promiscuous, right? The same thing goes for you fellas. When you lay down with someone, not only are you exchanging something so intimate, right? Like your soul, I really do feel that. You are now bringing a baby into a world that you both are responsible for, right? But you as a celebrity are a little bit different because you have these events that you got to go to. You have these things. And I'm pretty sure a lot of these kids are not in the same state. So then now you have a baby over here, a baby over there, and whatever. I love that. I'm pretty sure all of your kids are beautiful because I've seen them. They are gorgeous. But where does that leave the child again, right? And then two, the women who are deciding to do this and things of that nature, I'm all for having all the babies. I'm for, even if you want to be a polygamist, whatever, that's great. That's awesome. And that looks good on you. But when you have these spaces where you're like, oh, it doesn't matter, I'm just going to just keep popping out babies with all these different women and all these things like that, you have to take a step back and say, you know what? If you got to sit here and make appointments and put your baby on your calendar, you might need to revisit that idea of having all these different kids by these different baby mamas and things like that. And ladies, value yourself a little bit more than that, okay? And just because they're a celebrity don't mean you have to be like, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna be baby mama number 6. That's not cute, because now you are leaving your baby at a disadvantage, okay? So now that your baby is further down on that list, that first baby mama gonna be like, girl, you know what I'm saying? Like, how are you going to coordinate putting, first of all these women, do they have a talk with these women and say, okay, this is what I plan on doing, and let's kind of get all on the same page, and we're gonna have Christmas at baby mama number 2 house this year, and y'all gonna like it and love it? Like, what does that look like? I don't understand. So I think that I'm confused because I really don't understand it. And it's like, I understand your thought processes of wanting to be frugal and multiply. But at the same time, did you guys really sit back and think of the disadvantage that you would be putting these women and these children? Because your money at the end of the day means nothing. These kids need time and love. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I don't know about that, Tina. What do you think? Do you think that a man can actually have these different children and still be able to sit in his spotlight and be successful, but yet and still have time for these different baby mamas and different children?
Ooh, the polyfamories. Um, um, no, I don't. I think in terms of a polyamorous lifestyle, I mean, I don't live it, so I can't speak to it specifically, but I know there are situations where people, have these polyfamories and they're in a space where they're kind of parenting their children with like a village mentality, so they're like, it's almost like we're all contributing to raising these kids. The way your eyebrows are raised right now, they're contributing to raising these kids, and they're all like in this environment, and they just like cohesively do this together. Okay, it does take a village to raise, a child. So I do love the idea of like people participating in that, right? And so if you're living a lifestyle like that, and you're all contributing to the betterment of the children and each other, then that structure looks a little different. Like you even see that with, sister wives. They're kind of in this community where they're all kind of supporting the family, and the family's kind of like the bigger dynamic there, right? But I don't feel like that's what these guys are doing. I feel like oftentimes they are with separate women and in separate households. You're kind of like, it's almost like they want their cake and they want to eat it too. You know what I mean? And I also feel like since like with one of Cam's children's mother, recently they made headlines because essentially he wants to take ownership of a car that he, gave her. One side says that it was gifted, the other side, says that it wasn't. And it's like, but she has, I believe, 4 children with him. You look at a dynamic like that, and you can't really feel like this woman's going to sign up to have 4 children, be a single mother, only for you to turn around, leave her, and have children with somebody else. I don't believe she signed up for that. I don't think that she went into it thinking like, it's going to be me and our 4 kids, and he's going to, continue to keep doing this or do this with other people. I think that ultimately, and I believe she's even stated it before, that she had an interest in marrying him and thought that he was going to settle down with her and marry her. So I feel like it's done under false pretenses. And I was also watching one of Nick's interviews, and it was interesting because he talked about kind of wooing a woman and, being great to a woman. And he was like, and he said kind of in I'm paraphrasing here, not his exact words, but he says something along the lines of like, that's when my toxic traits come out. So it's like, so you're kind of bamboozling them. They're not walking into a situation saying, hey, I know it's going to be me, Sarah, Tiffany, Nicole, and this is what we're doing. You're being, this guy that's attentive to them and, spending time with them and making it about them. But then you're introducing other women into the equation kind of simultaneously as you're doing that. And I don't necessarily know that, all of the women are willing participants in that type of situation. Maybe some of them go along with it. I don't know that they all do, because it doesn't seem like they've all had those same equal reactions to him doing this. So I see that both with, Cam and with Nick. It's like, why not just have these children with, the women that you're actually dealing with, opposed to like making all these multiple baby moms out there, these single parent households with all these other children. And then you keep adding more women to the equation. And that's another interesting thing that I want to throw back to you. How many women does it take for you to find the right one? Like one hand you're on baby number 8, 6 biological kids. The other one, I think he's on baby number 10 or possibly 11. How many times do you have to do this in order for you to be like, oh, okay, I finally found the one or the ones, if it's gonna be multiple. What are your thoughts? Like, do you feel like this is ever going to come to an end? They're both young men, so they could continue to make as many children, as they wanted if they didn't want to slow down and stop now. What are your thoughts about that?
I might have heard wrong, but I thought that Nick after the whole Cam debacle, right? The whole interview with Cam, I thought he said he kind of saw it through different lenses and he kind of wanted to stop, kind of slow down because he kind of gets what everyone is saying. I don't know. I think again, women, we have to allow these men to do this, right? Because that's the way that they're able to do it, right? So whether or not the women know or don't know, these are celebrity men. And we kind of, even though I don't follow so closely everyone else's life, I can barely keep up with my own. I do know that everyone knows the whole running joke with Nick Cannon. They made a whole episode, him and Kevin Hart go back and forth about that joke, right? So if you know, you know, right? So everybody knows. So I think women have to be accountable to some degree. And you know what? I'm not going to be baby mama number 4. I'm not going to be baby mama number 6. You know what I'm saying? Take accountability. And so as women, if we hold these men accountable, then that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? But then you also have to be prepared that if you know that your dude, if you walking into a situation and he got 8 kids with 4 different women, and if that's something that you want to deal with, then you just know that you're gonna be baby mama number 5, giving up baby number 9 and 10. You better get real cozy and real friendly with them other baby mamas. That's all I'm gonna say, because guess what? You're gonna want to keep the peace. Nobody likes baby mama drama, so you're gonna have to keep the peace. You know what I'm saying? Because I haven't heard any of the baby mamas doing the whole rah-rah situation with each other. You get what I'm saying? Like Young Jock used to do back on Love and Hip Hop. You know what I'm saying? His baby mamas gathered at a round table and talked about this. You know what I'm saying?
Fatima is the OG. Alex is the only one who managed to get wifed up. And Carla and I were pregnant at the same time.
They got into it. It was a whole round table situation. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. If I was in that situation and if I chose, and I'm saying chose, to be baby number 5 to somebody who got 8, 9 kids and stuff like that, I know that I have to be prepared to deal with what comes along with that, right? Because you come on, these women ain't that stupid. These are gorgeous women. I'm pretty sure educated women who know what they're getting into. So I'm sorry, for some reason I can't allow them to play victim to me, because you knew kind of what you were getting into when you were dealing with Nick and when you were dealing with Cam. You knew what you were getting into by having children with them. Maybe not Mariah, because she kind of was the first one, but you get what I'm saying. Like, you knew to some degree that this kind of what he was into, and you know, you guys decided to lay down and have these kids. You just better get the kumbaya and like Young Jock's baby mamas did, and sit down and have that discussion. Okay, now we're in this situation. Moving forward, what will it look like for us to actually let our kids see each other, even if he ain't around? How will we get these kids for play dates and whatever? Because at the end of the day, it is about the kids. So again, as a woman coming into that situation, make sure you're setting boundaries. Make sure that you're holding that man accountable to stick around and seeing each child and letting each child know that they are special and that they did not ask to be here. And then also, if you decide to be in that situation with that man, get to know the other mothers in a peaceful way and take yourself out of the equation, because at this point, it's not about you, it's about that village.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You know, it's interesting that, you know, they've been doing public interviews, so you've seen a lot of that going around. Nick sitting down with Dr. Brian, Cam sitting down with Dr. Brian, and, you know, kind of having a deeper conversation about what this really means. But the interesting thing is, in terms of the conversation surrounding Elon Musk, who I believe is at child number 12, with 3 different mothers. And so it's interesting. I mean, it's talked about, but I would say it's not talked about nearly as much as we've seen with some of the other men. They're definitely doing it in, you know, the Black community.
Life is the more the merrier. And this philosophy not only applies to his multiple and growing business ventures, but also to his ever-expanding brood. The SpaceX founder has always encouraged people to have more children to save civilization from crumbling, and he's certainly doing his best to help the underpopulation crisis. So let's not wait further and meet the 52-year-old entrepreneur's 11 children.
Having multiple children in terms of procreating for civilization. What are your thoughts about that statement?
That's interesting because I could have sworn we had like a million, gajillion, zillion people on this earth. I didn't think we needed one or two more. Like I just, it kind of goes back to having your cake and eating it too. I think that a man of Elon Musk's stature, as far as his status goes, I hate to use insecurity, but I think it has a lot to do with insecurity, and then also it's just a big flex to have kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, I did that. It's almost like a God complex that he's having by saying that. It's like, okay, I'm gonna bless the world with my offspring type of, come on. Like, come on. We can't even halfway stand you, and you're gonna have like 1.5 million more. These little, I mean, come on. We don't need 1.5 million of you, Elon. Like, we don't. Like, I understand. Again, I love children. I think that we have so many out here that don't even have parents who need the love and things like that. So I get it. I love children, and if I could just scoop them all up, the ones who don't have parents, and just love on them, I would. But I also know that it's my duty to not go out here and be irresponsible to have 1.5 million kids. Like, it would be insane of me to do that. And then again, I think it goes back to some the insecurity, and then also the arrogance to think that you need to have so many children to be out here. Oh, I'm just going to bless the world with, little Musk running around. Like, no, we don't. We're fine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, enough is enough already. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then to be honest with you, these men of status like that are having all these kids by these different women and things like that, they don't be scared. Like, I understand you probably have them sign something, I'm sure. But it's like, one of these women gonna take you down. Look, do the wrong thing or step wrong, she might take you for all you got. I mean, I guess maybe somebody like him would be smart enough to have them sign something. But I don't want to sit down and have a baby with you, because to me that's not in love. You got me to have to sign a piece of paper saying I'm not gonna take you for all that you got. I don't know. It's just it's weird for me, because on one hand I understand, and hey, I say do whatever you want with your with your sperm and all that thing. I can't tell you what to do and what not to do with it, but I'm just saying that it just seems a little bit irresponsible to me. I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't know. I think I'm just I digress, Tina. What you think? You think that Elon, what do you think his thought process is when he says something like that? Like, he basically just needs to bless us with more children of his. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I would, I can't speak for him, but I feel like that to me looks more like he's looking at it in terms of his legacy, and essentially saying, he has a lot of control in the media. He has a lot of control in business. He has a lot of influence and a lot of power. And I think to a certain extent, the more lineage you have, the more children that you leave, and the more money you leave those, and power and position you leave those children with, you can essentially carry out, most of your dreams or your goals. I mean, your children are not always going to follow in your footsteps. They're not always going to, take from your blueprint. But, he's done enough in media, technology, and science that if he teaches this type of business, or ideologies to his children, they could very well facilitate, some of his mission for, decades and decades to come. And so I'm not saying that that's the reason that, he has these children, but the number of children that he has definitely represents, I mean, the video states, I believe they're on their 11th. I think now he just had a baby in 2024. So I believe he's at number 12 this year. And so 12 children, is a pretty large number of children. And, just the sheer number of that is going to probably, I would say there's probably going to be at least a small number of those children that will definitely follow in Elon's footsteps, right?
We don't know either Cam, Nick, or Elon's situation, but you did touch on Elon's legacy and him having his babies, and that could very well be one of the reasons, right? But then I noticed that when we do talk about the brothers, right, Nick or Cam and things of the nature, or either the men that's out here of color that are having these babies, or how they say dropping these babies off in different cities, we don't talk about legacy, right? Because I did hear Nick say earlier on that that's kind of what he was doing, right? Him having lupus and wanting to leave a legacy and want to do things like that. But I noticed that we make light of, you know what I'm saying, the situations, and we call it insecure and we call it this, but we never once thought to call it a legacy, right? Because when you have a man of power like Elon Musk, and because you know what I'm saying, we don't really talk about that in our Black community, right? We automatically think that because he is very wealthy, very tech in the tech world, and you know, having Tesla just be one of the most sought out cars and things of that nature, we don't talk about that with our brothers. So you know what I'm saying, for that I apologize, brothers, you know what I'm saying. But I think across the board, it doesn't matter what color you are. I think that whatever, if you want to have 1,000,005 babies, that's your business, as long as your intentions are pure, as long as you raise those babies up to be as great as you are and teach them your ways, then that's fine. But because they are the different colors, and we have a white gentleman doing it and we have these Black men doing it, right, we make more so light of when the Black men do it. And I think that we have to actually blur that and say for what it is. Either way, whatever your opinions are, let's say what it is.
You're right. There is a disparity between the way we see our brothers doing it in our community versus when it happens, you know, outside of people of color. You're absolutely right. And that's something that I think, you know, more people need to probably open up the discussion about, for sure. And then to your point, you know, talking about the God complexes, I do think to a certain extent, like some of these men, you know, they have the money, they have the power, they have the fame. There are some men that are rich. There are some men that have influence. But when you are a man that is rich, you know, wealthy, powerful, and has, you know, public influence, it's like the trifecta for the God complex. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like to a certain extent, it's like, you are going to see a lot of ego. And as the world gives you more and you have more access, you know, people are going to tell you no less and less, and you're going to be able to demand and buy things and, you know, influence things more and more. And I think to a certain extent, that's the reason why, you know, you're seeing these men do this. I believe it's essentially just because they know that they can. And that's, you know, that's a deeper conversation. But we are out of time on that subject. Something tells me that we will be back to talk about celebrity culture again in the future. If you're tuning in now, please make sure that you like and subscribe to Breaking Black Podcast on YouTube. And please make sure that you follow us on all social media pages and like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Again, you're with your host, Tina G, and your host, Fancy Arlee. We will see you next time.